Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. I am super excited to have my friend and colleague out in Vancouver, Ben Baker, on the show today. Ben, he is the founder of Your Brand Marketing, and he does some crazy cool things with internal podcasts and communication. So I'm super excited to hear his point of view. So Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, thanks for having me. You and I have had some really great conversations offline for years now, so I can't wait to put this thing on track and see what comes out of it.
Right. Let's see what happens. But
There we
first,
go.
let's tell everybody about Your Brand Marketing. What is it that you do?
Sure. For the last 25 years, we've been in the communications game and in branding and communications, and over the last 10 inside companies. How do we enable companies to not only communicate more, to drive change more effectively within the organizations? And we do that with a lot of different vehicles, but a lot of it comes down to being able to build windows and doors in the silos and enable teams to not only understand each other, engage with each other, understand each other, and to care about each other. And all that comes through more effective communication and listening. So that's what we do. And a lot of it comes down to, being able to let people understand that what they believe is the right thing to do may not exactly be the same thing as everybody else. And we need to be able to, understand that first and then work through it.
I love that. So starting that conversation, I love that bit about caring, and it's tough, especially the larger the organization, the more points of view, the more different agendas that are happening. Like silos kind of almost happen automatically. It's like you might argue that it's really hard to fight them, right? So in your travels, when you're dealing with these companies and you're communicating and you're trying to set this up, are there any specific challenges or obstacles that really come to mind that you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is not understanding shared goals. Being able to understand what are the goals and why are these goals important. People sit there and they put these goals and mission, vision, value statements together, but they don't communicate why these things are important and what they enable them to achieve. And when people are left to interpret what the mission, vision, and values actually mean, that's when the challenges arise. Because how you and I define resilience, how we define creativity, how we define customer experience, how we employ value, all those things are words, but what do they really mean within our organization? And unless they're absolutely defined and people understand why this is important to the company and how this relates specifically to them, nothing really happens and very little changes.
I really like the notion. You see a lot of companies, they do the work, you put the values on the wall. It might be when you walk in, and that's awesome. That's a great start. But then it's not the wall's job to live your values, both what you do and what you say, right? And I just love that quote, or that idea that it's your job. Every interaction either builds it up or tears it down, right?
Well, other than that, it's just 200-point font written on a wall somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And unless there's meaning behind it, unless people live it, it doesn't mean anything. And in a lot of cases, it's counterproductive because people sit there and say, well, they believe in employees. It says so right on the wall, but I don't feel valued as an individual. So all that does is create animosity, creates disengagement, creates frustration. And all of a sudden you have either people quitting or leaving.
And we talk a lot about engagement. More and more, it's becoming a kind of a common buzzword. If your employees engaged, then I'll succeed, or if they're not engaged, I'll have turnover, all this type of stuff. And you've kind of touched on it, but what, in your mind, what does an engaged employee team member look like?
Well, let's first of all put a statistic out there. I think the recognized percentage of a truly engaged employee within most organizations across North America hovers somewhere between 25 and 30%. That means 70% of people at one level or another feel disengaged within the office. And that can have all sorts of different meanings. It means all the way from I don't care I'm just going to come to the office. I'm going to collect my paycheck. I'm going to do the absolute bare minimum not to get fired. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to live my life. To the fact of people sitting there having a level of frustration going, I care. I really want to do something, but I feel every time I try to do something, I get stymied. I get blocked. There's somebody trying to do something. So, I'm just going to give up. And there's everything in between. And this can just lead to people being blocks in the chain and sit there going, that's not going to happen. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. To people sit there going, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm taking my customers with me. And I'm going to take the IP that I've learned over the last 10 years and walk out the door with it. So there's all sorts of different things that disengagement can mean at a variety of different levels. But if we sit there and say, I don't care about the company and I don't care about the vision and mission and values of the company, and all I'm doing is I'm here just to collect a paycheck until somebody gives me something better to do, that's a level of engagement, and that's on a continuum.
So it's really, I think, some people, they might never be happy, and others, maybe they were the original founding team and they'll love the place no matter what. But I think the really scary point is when someone transitions from super engaged to not anymore. And like you said, maybe they were frustrated or whatever. I know for myself, I came from a background of working for 4 different very, very large organizations. And in almost every one, I can tell you the place and time where I felt almost like a stabbing, that was it. That was the last straw for me. I'm done.
Yeah, and I think we all get to that point at one level or another, and some people stay and feel frustrated, and some people pick up and leave. And I'm not sure which is more dangerous. I personally think that the people who stay are far more dangerous and are far more destructive to an organization than the people that leave are. And as organizations, we need to sit there and say, is it the individual themselves, or is it the systems and the processes around them and the people around them that are causing them to be that way? And 9 times out of 10, it's not the individual. It's the situation that the individual finds themselves in that causes them to become disengaged.
Interesting. Like despite our best efforts to, systemize things or standardize things or whatever, we end up creating these environments that are people feel like trapped or stuck in a box, or something about it just doesn't make people feel free. It doesn't let the energy flow,
Well, we're
something.
human beings.
Yeah.
Human beings are not processes. They're not procedures. We're not human capital. That's the word that I rail against on a daily basis, is the term human capital. If there's something more awful out there than being human capital, I'm not sure what it is. But we're not Lego that can be used interchangeably. We're human beings that all walk into the office every single day with our own hopes, wants, fears, needs, desires, and challenges. And we don't leave them at the door. And we don't leave work problems at the door when we go home. And the more we can realize that as individuals and as leaders and as organizations, the more we have the ability to treat people like human beings and say, hey, what's wrong? Instead of, you've been late for 5 days, you do it one more day, we're going to fire you.
And that's, that I often think when I see managers or leaders like that behaving like that, I often think it's not necessarily their fault. They probably had a manager or leader teach them that behavior, and now they're copying in their mind. That's their job, right?
Well, the Peter principle is a wonderful thing.
Sure, there's that, and it just like propagates everywhere. So I'm curious, as we look forward to the next year or coming years, in terms of engagement, we're seeing hybrid workforces, virtual teams. Like, what do you see for the future of engaged teams?
You know what? I think we need to go beyond, are we going to be hybrid? Are we going to work from office? Are we going to work from home? I think we have to say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing what we do? How can we utilize the skills of the people that we have better, more effectively? And how can we get people to understand it's not about the hours that you put in, but the productivity? And as long as we're paying people by the hour, and as long as we're sitting there giving the people You need to have X amount of widgets done by a certain amount of time. Then we're putting ourselves in a position where people feel like they're a commodity. And if we look at things and say, look, this is what we need to have done. This is when we need to have it done by, because this has to happen, after you do this. And you're important because without you, this can't be done. We have the ability to affect engagement. We have the effective productivity and people feeling that they belong within the organization, whether they work from home, whether they work from office, whether it's a combination too. That's individual to the company itself and what works best for them and for the people within there. But, and a lot of it comes down to culture, and a lot of it comes down to communication, and a lot of it comes down to leadership. But when we deal strictly with engagement, it's all about purpose and vision. And it's all about making people feel that they're valued and that they matter. And if we can do that, then I think we stand a far better chance of moving forward productively, instead of having this us versus them and this passive aggressive society where people quit and go looking for another jobs because they're afraid to ask for a promotion, or they're afraid to ask for what they want. So they quit and they go find another company, where they think they're going to get what they want until they're unhappy there. And then they quit there and they go looking for another job.
I think truer words may not have been spoken. So really, we're starting the conversation. We're showing people that we care. We're listening. We're treating them like people, not like cogs in a machine. And then we move forward together, whether or not we're using virtual tools or not. It's the same thing. It's human interaction. It's keeping that energy flowing and that story going. Well, Ben, I really appreciate your time. I always have fun chatting with you, and I look forward to the next one. And thanks so much for your time.
Hey, Adam, thanks for having me on the show, and hope people got value out of this.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.